Let's face it, it's got to be time for another photography locked down creative challenge. These challenges are every 2 weeks and they are designed to help photographers grow their creativity, because that's not a camera setting, it's a photographer setting. Your camera captures light on a sensor and it does a brilliant job of that. But how creative that light is, how evocative and imaginative the image is, that's your call. That is down to you to tell the camera what you want. That is what these challenges are, to help you grow that creative muscle. If you'd like to find out more, please click the little thing popping out above me up here right now. It will take you to a page, you can learn all about it. Come and meet the awesome group of photographers who are doing these challenges, photographers of all levels and all kinds of amounts of experience. Let's face it, that is this week's challenge, and the hashtag to use when you upload your images to the album is appearing on screen right now, PLDFace. We're going to go and look at just 2 ideas I had on ways in which you could interpret this theme. You can of course come up with your own. One of them is pretty basic, pretty straightforward, pretty easy to do. The other involved more planning and it's more landscapey. Now sometimes things don't go according to plan, and that is exactly what happens in the second part, the second idea that I had. We could make it work, but I'm going to say more about that at the end. We're going to come back and have a quick chat about these pictures. If you're confused by any of the things we talk about, camera related things, using focal length, finding camera settings, etc., please come and have a look at my Ultimate Beginners course, because although it says beginners in the title, it's more than that. It's everything you need to know about managing and controlling your camera, the settings you need and the multitude of settings you don't, because they've been put there by marketing people to convince you to buy something. We go into light and composition. It's got amazing 5-star reviews on Trustpilot and Google. So if you'd like to find out more about that, try a sample, maybe just buy it. Click the little thing up here again, go and have a look, go check it out. Now let's go and look at these ideas, and I'll see you back here in the office in a minute. How about facing a crowd? Now, when we got down here, there was loads of people milling about, and of course now it's thinned out, so we will see what we get. How can we magnify facing a crowd? We want someone to stand out from the others. I'm going to use a long lens because it's got a narrow field of view. We can exclude things, and from a distance you can kind of draw things up behind. Let's have a look through it and see what we've got down the street here. Now there's a few people about at the moment. Now with this long lens, oh my word, look at that. There's a Steph Rebello standing in the street with a hat and a blue thing on. How amazing. This was not staged at all. Now look, if I shorten that focal length a bit, I quite like having her quite small in the shot. It looks busier than it really is. When you look over my shoulder, you can see how few people there are. Now, you may not have the advantage of a model to come and do this for you, but you know, this is just one idea, it's one interpretation, facing a crowd. Imagine if this was so much busier. What else could you do? Maybe you could use a tripod and a slow shutter speed and have your kids, your wife, your partner, your husband, your whoever, just keep really, really still, and you can use a slow shutter speed and have people blurring around them while they don't move. I'm just going to shoot a couple of frames to give you an idea. How you interpret this theme is, of course, entirely up to you. But facing a crowd, now of course we haven't got many people. I want Steph small down the bottom there. I've got the wrong autofocus mode. These are things you can always check and move around. I had continuous focus whilst shooting through the video camera, so it would keep things in focus even though it did wander. Now I'm going to single point because Steph's just keeping still. I quite like the thought of her being small in the shot. Now we've got a shallow depth of field. I quite like those kids coming up. She's standing out in the crowd, partly because she's looking at me. We're kind of making a bit of a depth of field sandwich. We're using a shallow depth of field. Steph is standing out from the incredibly thin crowd that we've got here. But the long lens is making it look much busier than it actually is. I'm hoping we'll get a few people. Steph, just walk towards me slowly. Now I'm going to quickly flick to continuous autofocus so that the camera will hold her in focus as she's moving. That's quite a nice shot, I think. Thank you, mate. Fancy bumping into you. Yeah. But you can see the technique involved. Use a long lens and a shallow depth of field. There's hardly any people out here, but we've still managed to get a little bit of a face in the crowd. how would I go about this on a real photo shoot rather than trying to do a quick sort of tutorial video here? I'd wait, I'd hang around. I'd come here at a different time of day when people are coming out to get their lunch and the street's busy. Look, it's busier now. Steph, would you mind running over there quickly? Just do a quick, because it's a little bit busier. I'm just going to try and do one more shot. This is what I mean about, that'll do, Steph. Decisive moments. Oh, come on, camera, stop messing me about. Here we go. I'm just going to wait until there's a few more people. That was quite nice. That's better. That's no worries, mate, no worries. You get the idea of the technique. We didn't really quite get what we were hoping for, but it's just another way of interpreting how you could shoot a face. Let's go look at something else. When you're working on an idea, a theme interpretation, what you have to remember is that your idea may or may not work, but there's no way of finding that out until you go and do it. You've got to try before you buy. You've got to be prepared to fail before you can win. Clock face going on up there behind me. So the idea in my head initially was to come down here in the evening because the sun goes down behind the clock at this time of year. I have seen that clock face lit up from within. There's lighting inside it. So came down here, spent an hour messing around. The light didn't come on and the pictures are hopeless, boring and dull. What a waste of time. So come back out here again, 6 o'clock in the morning before the sun has fully come up to have another go at it, see what it would look like then. Now the sun should be coming up pretty much behind you guys, somewhere in this arc of the sky. I'm thinking if we get direct sunlight just as it comes high enough to actually hit the clock tower. Now I don't know how long I'm going to have to wait. I'm probably here much too early. But these are the things you have to do. Whether or not it'll work, who knows? We're going to find out because I'm going to take a few test shots, show you what I'm thinking, some of the ideas, and then we'll see if that piece of light makes that idea for clock face actually work. First off, let's just have a little look. Let's take a test shot from here. Plan the shot before the light arrives, because if you do that, you're in a good place. The light doesn't stand still for very long. Let's see how it looks. Right, so there's our church. We could zoom in a bit, maybe, just on the top. Now, that doesn't look so good, does it? It's okay, but it's not brilliant. What if we turn it up the other way and see if we can go for a negative space, just the clock tower? That could work, couldn't it? Don't know. Then, of course, there are other angles from which you could shoot it. So I'm going to have a little walk around, take a few test shots and see what I think might work the best for this challenge if and when we get the light. Now, personally, I prefer if there were some clouds in the sky. Of course, the best laid plans of mice and men, we've got a clear blue sky. Blue skies, they're a bit boring. If there was some cloud behind the church tower, we'd pick up some pinkiness from the rising sun, which is happening in the other direction. Let me just show you. There is a bit of colour in the sky down there. Not a lot, but there is a little bit, I think. The video camera may just about be able to pick it up. Now, if that were to translate itself into being behind the church tower, I think it would be a lot more interesting. Not sure it's going to happen. This is why I want you to see this, guys, because it is so important. You understand, you go out, you try something, it doesn't work, you ask why it didn't work, then you have another go at something else. Let's do some test shots, see what happens. I've just shoved on a much longer lens because the thought was, what if we move further away from the tower? We've got a few leaves going on up here, and then maybe see if we can use those leaves to frame the tower. By using the long lens, we can isolate it from its surroundings. Let's have a quick look and see what it looks like, because I don't know, I haven't done this yet. So here we have our clock tower. We've got the street light, which is a pain in the neck, isn't it? But what if we invert the shot? It's getting better, isn't it? Look, we could include the front of the church. What if we used the street as well? Maybe that would work at this time of day. There's no one about. But what I'm interested in is clock face. So how about if we zoom in like this, move a bit, move your body. Composition is a dance. We've got a few little bits of leaf going on above. See if we can isolate it, something like this. That could look quite nice. And just experiment. Do I want the louvered piece or not? I'll take a quick still test shot and see how it looks. Because also you've got to remember, video format's a slightly different shape to stills. Now the light's coming up fast, actually. The light is coming up fast. I think that has a possibility. I'm not sure about the little roof on the right. Let's see if I can, let's just move around a little tiny bit. See if I can find a place where I can maybe lose it. I think I need to come that way. I don't think I can lose that little roof on the right. So I'm just going to leave it there. I want a bit more negative space above the clock. So let's, I've found something that looks, to me, a little more interesting. I'm going to lose the louvered window altogether and just go like that. I like a little bit of negative space and minimalism. I quite like this angle from back here. You can see the light is starting to come up. So I need to move a bit quickly and try another angle. It's not as strong as I want it to be, but there's something happening, so I've got to move quickly. How about including all of the church? Now, not so keen. If that line across the top was sharper, stronger, it might work. But it's just a bit too busy for my liking. It's just me, that's all. Excuse me, I quite like the quietness of the space. Let me try the same thing we did over there with the leaves from here. I've changed, look, back to my favourite 18 to 55 lens. See what happens. Now from here, yeah, maybe. The light on the church isn't bad, but it's not what I'd hoped for. I'm just doing it with the 18 to 55 with just using those two little top elements of the face, and I kind of like it. It's not bad. I just wish the light was stronger. I think part of the trouble is it's coming from directly behind. These are the challenges that you face when you do photography, particularly out and about in the world, because you've no control over the light, you've no control over the sun. You have to have ideas and try things out. I'm going to hang around for a little while and just see what happens with the light, and I might try a couple of other different angles to see if we can find something that'll work. So how about a 3/4 angle? We've come around here. You've still got that line going on up here. By the way, come meet Val. She comes to the gym with me. Look, she just walked in. You can't really see it. Come on, Val, let me get on with it. I'll talk to you in a minute. Up here, can you see? There's this line going across the top, just there, like that. And it doesn't look too bad from this angle. So if I try and photograph it from here, how does it look? How do we compose the picture? Yeah, maybe. We've got some quite nice colours going on. How about we turn the camera the other way up and then just kind of take it from there. Hang on, I like that empty space. Let's go up. I still think our shot down the street was possibly better. Let's try shortening the lens more, making that clock tower smaller. I still think that the one we did down the street earlier on, framing it with the leaves, looked a little better. I'm going to just run along here a little bit and do a side on, because that light's changing so fast we need to get it, and we may need to go back to the beginning. Now, I don't even know if you can see me because I don't have a camera operator, but I'm shooting this at 3/4 because the light is a little more interesting. It's not bad. Let's make it smaller again. I like small, don't I? That's quite nice. It's not too bad against the plain blue sky, actually. It's better than I thought it would look. I'm going to go back up the street. We'll have one more go from up there, framing it with the leaves, see how that works out. You've got to work really, really fast when you're doing this because the light is changing fast. We've got tons of blue going on up there, but I wish we had a few clouds. It's always the way. Now let's try that idea again, using the leaves. We're back here. I'll put the longer lens on again. Let's just try framing like that. I think you'll agree it looks a lot better than the first one we did. I'm going to walk further away and see what happens, playing with that focal length all the time. So now we're just going for the very tips. Clock face. Find the focal length, the zoom and the position where you can lose the elements you don't want. So we're going to go with that, I think. Not bad. I'll try one landscape just to see, because that could possibly work. And from here I'm going to do one last one, zooming right in and positioning it low so it's a little more obvious that it's a clock face. They're okay, but they're not exactly what I was hoping for. So I'll see you guys back in the office. We'll have a little look through some of these shots, talk through them. But what you have seen is the amount of work you have to put into things and how you won't always get what you want. So it's try again. See you in the office. Yes, I know, that's not my office, is it? Just going back to the car, I had another idea. Thought, what about if we come around the other side of the church? Because we may get a little bit of play of light, because the lights come up over there. You can see it in the video, it's brighter there. But already we've lost the shadows for the most part, and we've even got mist coming up the street. This is one of the things with photography. It is so much hard work and planning. But I'm going to show you the shot I was thinking of from this side. Whether or not it will work, I don't know, because there is still just a hint of light and dark. This side of the church tower is just, where's my hand? There we go. This bit is just a little bit darker than this bit here. And it may give it a little bit of shape. It's not what I wanted. It really isn't. Had there been strong sunlight, then that would have worked absolutely brilliantly. I'm going to try one other way of positioning the tower within the frame and see how that works. I'm just going to try going for just slapping it right in the middle and just see if I can make that work, because I quite like things like that. I'm going to go lots of space. One of the ways to make something stand out is to give it plenty of space in its surroundings. Don't lose it amongst something. Anyway, I'll see you in the office. We'll have a little look through, see what worked, if anything. What a pain in the backside that was. It doesn't matter whether you're a professional photographer or an amateur photographer. These things happen to all of us. That picture behind me on the wall just there of the Boeing Dreamliner, that is one such shot. We managed to pull a rabbit out of the hat, but don't think that all those amazing pictures you see online and used in advertising campaigns were just and done. These sorts of things happen, and that's why I'm going to be talking about the ones that didn't work here on the end, because I think it's far more value for you to understand that things sometimes don't work and what you may need to do in order to make it work. So let's just have a look at the shots that I came back with for the clock face shoot. Make a bit more room here so you can see a little bit better. Now these are the ones that I mentioned earlier. You saw them in the video. These are the ones that when we tried to do the sunset and I thought this clock face here would be lit up, and it wasn't. It doesn't work, does it? Even when a little bit of colour was coming into the sky, we weren't having a great sunset because there were no clouds. There was nothing for the light to bounce off. And even if it had bounced, it doesn't matter because the clock face wasn't lighting up. Here it is a bit later on. You know, the tower lit up, the bell tower, but not the clock. It's so frustrating, but these things happen. That's 2 hours of standing around hoping it may work. Let's look at this scenario first. What could you do, the photographer? Because there's always something you can do. Well, the first thing, obviously, is to go and find the vicar. Go find the guy who runs that church. Find out when you're going to be turning the light on inside that clock face again. If it's only done at Christmas, then see if you can get them to turn it on just for you so you can do a photo shoot. This is all creative photography stuff. It's stuff that happens outside the camera. It's photographer functions, and it is so important, particularly when you are depending on the weather and the light and the circumstances all to come together at the same time. When you see that amazing shot of this clock tower lit up with the sunset behind it, and they do exist if you search Google Images. You've got to realise that either that photographer just by luck was in the right place at the right time, or they planned it and probably made many trips to get back there. We only see the tip of the top of the tip of the iceberg in the published image. We don't see all that work that goes into getting it. So here we go, our shots. You can see there's our line of light across the church there. And the sky's empty. It's blue, it's dull, and it's boring. You can see there's a little bit of yellowy light. It's coming up in the stonework below the clock. And had there been a little bit of cloud in the sky, that sunrise light may have reflected off it. We may have got some pinks. So, you know, changing the composition, changing all these angles just to try and get it to work. The thing is, the light isn't working, so the shot won't work, no matter how much we try different compositions. I think it's getting a bit better here, but that flat sky is just so dull. And because there was a bit of a haze over on the sunset side, this shot looks pretty dull because the shadow isn't hard enough. This darker side, it should be much darker. It wants to be harder and harsher. Again, try different compositions. It's okay, but it's dull, isn't it? Can you imagine what it might look like had there been some clouds in the sky, some pinky colour reflecting off of that sunrise as it was coming up? It would have been far, far more interesting, wouldn't it? This is a little bit more interesting, you know, when we kind of went back with the leaves, but again, it's not great, is it? It sort of says clock face, but it's not amazing. And again, trying different compositions of the same thing. It's never going to work if the light isn't right. This is one I shot off camera, just so you can see the environment. You can see where the lines of the light are on the building. Light moves fast, again, moving around the side. I quite like this composition, but it needs something in that blue space. It needs strong light on that clock face. It needs shadows and highlights, and they're simply not there. Again, another interesting composition. And then when the mist started coming up the street, by the time I messed around and taken this one, yeah, it's okay, but this I think is probably the most interesting of all of them. But again, it needs light on the tower. It needs shadows and highlights on the clock face for it to work. If I was doing a PLD critique on this, had it been entered for one of the challenges, what would I say? Exactly what I've just said. It's a really great angle. I like the space, but the bright area at the bottom to the right is just a little bit too dominant for the dark area, and we need shadows and highlights. You need to go back and shoot this at another time when you've got the kind of light conditions that will make it work. That is what I would be saying to any one of you guys if you were submitting this. And I wanted to show you this. It's so important to realize that professional photographers, people who've been doing it for years, put a huge amount of work into getting the images that you see published online. Sometimes, sure, you're lucky, you're walking past at the right moment, at the right time of day, you've got your camera with you, click, boom, awesome. But very often it doesn't, particularly when you're doing these creative challenges. So you've got your theme, you're thinking up a way to interpret that theme, you have this wonderful idea, and you go and do it, and it doesn't work. So again, what could we do with this? Well, like I said, we could go and see the vicar to see when he's turning the clock on to do the twilight shot. Or here, it's just a case of looking at the weather, going back tomorrow. What we have learnt in doing this is which angles work the best. That's the other thing you must remember. Don't just look at your pictures and go, oh, these are rubbish, I'm no good at this. No, it is a learning experience. Anyone who's ever done anything powerful in life has failed their way to success. My brother-in-law lives in a beautiful place in northern France. That's just one of his houses. It's a great big 12th century manoir with outbuildings and lakes and goodness knows what. And everyone says, yeah, Mr. Moneybags, everything you touch turns to gold. He says, everyone forgets the hundreds of things I've touched that turn to absolute shit. This is the thing. Pick yourself up, have another go. Try again. Just keep working with it. We now know all the different places you can go, the different angles you can shoot this from when you do get the light right. So there we go, guys. Go out and give it your best shot. Photography Lockdown is supported by the members of that community with small regular donations. All we ask is the cost of a takeaway coffee a month from everyone, and then that will cover the cost of running it. Because trust me, you've just seen I spent what, 8 hours just trying to get this last shot, plus of course time importing video and all the rest of it. There is a cost attached to that. So please guys, I would really appreciate it if you would donate just the cost of a takeaway coffee. More if you wish, because every little helps and it is a lot of work. Anyway, enjoy the challenge, have a great time, and I look forward to seeing your entries uploaded to the album. Please do not post archive pictures. You need to go and shoot for the challenge, because that is where you get to stretch that muscle. If you're struggling, you find it difficult, you find it challenging, you're in the very best place. I look forward to seeing your images and seeing you again when we do the live judging. Take care, be well. Laters.